Here's a little video sequence I wanted to include in the previous video on this part, but I just didn't have time to edit all the clips and everything, get it all together. So this is changing to the first tool in the program, which is the 1-inch feed mill, or plunge mill I should say again. And it's bringing the tool that was in the spindle back up into the magazine. The magazine on this machine holds 80 tools, and it's a Capto C8 taper, which is the milling spindles taper on this machine. So that's the standby tool. It's all doing that really while this is moving, but it's you really can't show both sequences at once. So the plunge mill I'm doing here, I'm just roughing a little bit of this angle. These angles on the end of this slot are much steeper on the ID than this, but I can't really reach them. I don't know if you saw an Instagram post of mine. The clearances on the machine are it's right up against the end of the cabinet, and I can't really tip it any more than this. But this does help me out when I go to do the finish cuts on the inside of the slot. The end mills don't have to go up into a full corner that way, and it reduces the problem with chatter. So this is a 4-flute, 3/4 inch 4-flute end mill with a 90 thousandths tip radius, and it's just finishing the height of the part and roughing a little bit of that shoulder off that you saw it do on the first cut there, and also roughing the slot out a little bit more. It's kind of like a rough finish cut on the inside of the slot here that it's doing, just to get rid of those bumps that the plunge mill left on the walls, so that the actual finishing end mill, which is the tool after this, is a 1-inch carbide end mill, doesn't have to go over those. Because remember, the real material of these parts is Inconel 718, and it would be too hard on the finishing tool to take those bumps out as well. So I'm roughing them out with this tool, going down about 3 peck levels in Z, and then it's going to turn the part 180, and it's going to do the exact same thing on the other side of the part. So there it is, turning it around. And there's roughing that shoulder off a little more. That has to be further finished by a future tool, a 1/2-inch end mill later on in the program. So those cuts there are bringing I believe the dimension was 2 1/4 inches for the height of the part in this area. Roughing the slot back out. Also, the 1-inch carbide end mill that runs next will do the whole slot, the whole height of the slot in one. Well, it actually makes 2 passes. I only show one in the video here. It makes more or less a finish cut and then a spring cut in the part. But if I was to do the whole slot, I could finish it with this tool, I guess, halfway down from each side, but there would be a little bit of a mismatch. No matter how close you try to line things up, you never get it perfect, and it's better just to do it all with one tool to get the whole vertical surface clean. And also, being as it's in Inconel, it'll put less load on this finishing tool that's coming up here, this 1-inch carbide end mill. This is sped up quite a bit. It runs much slower than what you're seeing here. But this is the finished tool that's going to finish the inside of the slot to dimension. And then we come in here with a 1/2-inch 4-flute carbide end mill with a 60 thousandths tip radius. And it refinished that shoulder as you saw, and now we're doing some surface milling here to establish these radiuses that have been modeled on the part. You'll notice that it's barely touching that conical surface. I think it was a 1,000th or 2 off center. See, it's only touching on the one side, but it's barely touching it. When the part was finished, I ran my fingers over that, and it was maybe 1,000th of an inch into there. So I either got to work on my confinement boundaries on the milling cycle, or maybe I could just raise the tool up 1,000th and it wouldn't really even touch anything. Here I cut quite a few passes out of this. It's kind of hard to tell from the video. When I watch this video, but if you have to watch very carefully, but it took many more passes than what I'm showing here to make these cuts. And also I've sped it up. I got the machine running in dry run here to speed up the feed rate quite a bit, just to show it on the aluminum part and verify the program. So it turns it around and it does exactly the same thing on this side, so I'm not going to show that all over again. And we come back with a 3/4 inch end mill, and we're going to machine the inside radiuses here. So it's just stepping down. Here's a shot from underneath. It goes halfway to the center line, and then it rotates the part 180, and it does the same thing all over again. So that's the finishing of the slot that I, like I say, I wanted to put in the last video, but I just didn't have time to put it in there. And those are the radius cuts on the inside. So that's everything on this end of the part and the center of the part, but the other end of the part, which is in the chuck right now, is much more complicated than this end, and so that's going to be a little bit more detailed videos on that if I have time to make them. So if this is your first video of mine, please subscribe, and for everyone else, thanks for watching.